Iran says their missiles just destroyed a U.S. aircraft carrier. The U.S. military says that never happened. Both statements were released less than 1 hour apart. So someone is lying. And thanks to satellites watching ships like the USS Abraham Lincoln, we can find out who lied. So today we're going to investigate this like space detectives. Because in 2026, attacking an aircraft carrier is almost impossible to hide. Let's start with the claim. Iran says multiple ballistic missiles struck the carrier. If that were true, the damage would be massive. An aircraft carrier's deck is about 3 football fields long. A ballistic missile hitting it would leave huge craters, burned metal, and possibly even explosions and fires. No one would miss it, even from space. And here's the thing. The US military isn't the only one watching the Persian Gulf. Private satellite companies are also watching. Companies like Planet Labs in the United States and Changguang Satellite Technology in China constantly photograph the region. Their satellites capture high-resolution images of ships at sea. And within hours of the alleged attack, those images were released. What did they show? The flight deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln looked completely normal. No craters. No burned sections. No structural damage. Just a perfectly intact carrier. And if several ballistic missiles had actually hit the ship, we would absolutely see it. Even from 500 kilometers above Earth. But analysts didn't stop there. They looked at something even more revealing. Movement. Modern satellites can track ships over time. So analysts compared images taken before and after the attack. If the carrier had been seriously damaged, its engines might fail. Its speed would drop. Its course might suddenly change. But the images show none of that. The carrier continued moving normally, leaving the same long wake behind it. Like nothing happened. Then there's the most important clue of all. Aircraft. An aircraft carrier is only useful if its planes can take off. Satellite images show fighter jets parked neatly on the deck. The launch catapults look clear. And later, the US military released a video showing jets being prepared for takeoff. If the deck had major structural damage, that wouldn't be possible. But investigators also check something we can't see. Radio waves. A working aircraft carrier is basically a floating radio tower. Its powerful Spy-6 radar constantly scans the sky. Airborne command aircraft, such as the E-2D Hawkeye, coordinate operations overhead. Thousands of crew members communicate through encrypted radio channels. And here's the surprising part. Across the world, radio enthusiasts and monitoring stations track these signals. If a carrier were badly damaged, its electronic signature would change instantly. Radar might shut down. Emergency channels might activate. Distress signals might appear. But none of that happened. The carrier's communication frequencies stayed completely normal. No emergency signals. No sudden silence. Nothing. And there's one more clue. Aircraft carriers don't operate alone. They're surrounded by escort ships like Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. And they're supported by tanker aircraft like the KC-135. If the carrier were damaged, fighter jets might not be able to land. They'd need emergency refueling in the air. That would trigger a huge surge of tanker flights from nearby bases. Places like Qatar or the UAE. But open-source flight tracking networks saw no such surge. Which strongly suggests something important. The carrier's aircraft could still land normally. So what evidence did Iran present? Missile launch footage. Dramatic video of rockets blasting into the sky. But in military terms, launching a missile proves you can fire. It doesn't prove you hit the target. What's missing is the critical moment. No infrared guidance footage. No clear impact video. No confirmed strike. Put all the pieces together, and the most likely scenario looks like this. Iran did launch several missiles, but they were probably intercepted by the Aegis missile defense systems protecting the carrier group. Systems are deployed on escort ships, such as Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Those interceptions can create huge fireballs in the sky. From a distance, they can look like impacts, which might explain the conflicting claims. But the real story isn't just whether a missile hit a carrier. It's something bigger. Modern war is also an information war. Every claim is part of a narrative. For Iran, claiming a hit shows strength, enabling it to resist longer. For the United States, denying it preserves deterrence. And the truth now lives somewhere between satellites, radio signals, and open-source intelligence. So was the USS Abraham Lincoln actually hit? Based on everything we can verify, probably not. But the battle over what people believe is still happening. Because in modern warfare, sometimes the most powerful weapon is the story itself. Lying is also a weapon. Cheating is also a weapon. And stealing is also a weapon. As we said in previous videos, it does not matter whether the carrier was hit. Even if USS Abraham Lincoln is still intact, running away is a shame. People will say it is a coward, not like the hero in a US movie. Hollywood is full of heroes, and it never fails to defeat enemies, unlike the US military, whose service members do not wear red shorts outside their outfits. But here's where the story gets even more intense. Because even if the carrier was never hit, the war itself is creating a different kind of pressure. Modern wars burn through weapons insanely fast. In the opening phase alone, the United States and Israel launched thousands of precision weapons at Iranian targets, missile bases, radar stations, air defenses, and command centers. The plan was simple: shock the system, trigger a regime change, hit so many targets so quickly that Iran would feel overwhelmed, and back down. But wars don't run on strategy alone. They run on stockpiles. Every long-range strike uses expensive cruise missiles or guided bombs. And every Iranian missile fired toward Israel or US bases triggers another launch in response, an interceptor racing into the sky to stop it. And here's the crazy part. Each of those interceptors can cost millions. So the longer the war lasts, the more it becomes a giant industrial race. Missiles versus interceptors. Factories versus stockpiles. Iran has spent years building massive inventories of ballistic missiles. Even if many are intercepted, sheer volume can slowly drain the defenses trying to stop them. Which leads to the real question. Can airstrikes alone actually force Iran to surrender unconditionally? History says that's very rare. Bombing can destroy military bases, factories, and infrastructure. But governments usually survive, unless their political system collapses from inside, which is not happening. And that creates a huge dilemma for Donald Trump. If the war escalates, the United States could get pulled into a long conflict, burning through missiles, aircraft sorties, and political support. But if the campaign stops too early, he loses his face, the last thing he wants to do. The original goal, forcing Iran to completely surrender, may never happen. So this war isn't just about missiles flying through the sky anymore. It is never about whether a carrier was hit. It's about time. Time for factories to build more weapons. Time for public opinion to shift. And time to see which side runs out of resources first. When Donald Trump visits his best friend in Beijing by the end of March, Xi Jinping may ask him, "How are you doing, bro?" Trump may respond, "I am fine, thank you. But my soldiers are not." We do not know whether President Xi Jinping should smile decently or laugh diplomatically. Or embarrassed.